These are 8 habits that got me a perfect 45 in the IB Diploma, right? Number 1 is that I used this stopwatch right here to gamify all of school. One of the biggest hacks I did in the IB Diploma and in high school was that I constantly asked myself, how are CEOs and the ultra wealthy and the ultra successful allocating their time? Because if these CEOs and ultra wealthy are able to achieve extraordinary things with all the resources and all the teams and just all the hectic lifestyle that comes with that, how can I learn something from that and apply it to my own life? And something I've realized in my own life being an entrepreneur is that when you start to view things as a game, not as something you have to do, not as some impending doom, such as many people see the IB exams, but instead as a game that you're trying to beat, not only does it make the entire thing much more fun, but it also makes the entire thing easier because now you're approaching it from this perspective of how can I get the highest score rather than this perspective of I need to survive. So what I did all the time was I carried around this stopwatch right here, and I would track the amount of time that I spent working on my most important priority of the day. And then I also correlated this to what I like to call sprints, which is when you sit down for 45 to 90 minutes straight and you do focused, undistracted work in a state of flow nonstop. That's a sprint. So I tracked the amount of time I spent working on my most important priority in a state of flow in a sprint session utilizing this stopwatch. And then what I did is I competed against some other friends, and every single day I would try to improve that number, try to get the highest score possible, try to get the most amount of time spent on my most important priorities, right? And I capped it at around 3 to 4 hours every single day. And that fun competition between myself, between my friends, between the ideal version of myself that I knew would be the most productive, created this aura of fun, competition, game, and it removed myself from just the pain I started to feel by doing the IB Diploma. The other big part about this is that it builds the discipline in staying consistent with your study routines, meaning that today you know that you got to get 3 to 4 hours or else you're going to lose points and you're going to lose against your other friends you're competing against. Which, by the way, if you want access to that type of community, that type of people, that type of events who are competing with their stopwatches and doing all these type of challenges, I strongly suggest you check out what is known as the Grizzly community, which you can do so down below. Essentially, you get access to the Discord server, which is filled with Ivy League students with weekly meetups, gamification, prizes, and the rest of it to really gamify school and also make it much more likely they get into your top university. So you can join down below, although you need to apply. And in order to apply, you need to have gotten at least a level 7 in one of your previous exams, as well as a bunch of other requirements. So check that out down below, apply. We'd love to have you in the community. And then number 2 is that I pre-studied the content I was going to learn in school while on the bus ride to school. So there was these 2 type of friends, all right, Jerry and Bjorn, and they were both taking the IB. But the thing was that Jerry was the kind of guy to simply go with the flow. He does things on his own whim or whenever he feels like it. Bjorn, on the other hand, is someone we would call a disciplined mother. And one of those key habits that Bjorn learned was to pre-study the content before he arrived to class. Because of that, he was able to relearn, ask new questions, and develop a thorough and deep understanding of the content being taught in class. Jerry, on the other hand, spent that time in class either multitasking, being confused and not asking questions, and then ultimately has to go back home and pre-study the content himself. So ultimately, because of Bjorn's positive habits to study before he got into class, it basically allowed him to approach the class time that he spent with this perspective of, hey, how can I improve the knowledge that I already have? And when you approach it from that perspective of trying to add on to the knowledge you already have, rather than trying to learn something new, that's when you can get ahead and then develop that deep understanding that you need to excel in the IB Diploma. And the crazy part about this is that it's actually a very simple habit to do, right? You can literally spend no more than 15 minutes on the bus ride to school or in the morning or even in the afternoon, whenever you want to do it, but spend no more than 15 minutes simply reviewing the content you're going to cover next time. And if you don't know what content you're going to cover, the great part about the IB Diploma and the fact that it's a standardized test is that you have a very strict curriculum that your school needs to follow. So just go ahead and look at the curriculum points that you're going to cover in the future and then just study those. And again, this is literally 15 minutes. Watch a YouTube video explaining the concept, understand, maybe read parts of the textbook, whatever you need to develop a decent understanding of the concept before the class even begins. It's a win-win-win on so many different axes because you get a deeper understanding. Your teacher also likes you more because remember, teachers are human, so they have emotional biases. And then number 3 is that you're actually using your class time effectively. I don't know how many times this happens to you, but when I was in high school, there was a lot of classes that I showed up with and I kind of just sat there, and then by the end, I felt like I just wasted my time, right? There was nothing to get out of it. Class was so slow. There was that one guy in the corner who was asking questions that was just like, dude, shut up. So instead of going to class and feeling wasted like that, why don't you use this as an opportunity to further refine knowledge in this area, because you're eventually going to be asked about it anyways. So might as well develop a deep understanding now. Ask the questions you need, develop a thorough understanding by asking questions to your teacher, and then you can actually utilize that time effectively instead of just throwing it away. And then number 3 habit that I developed was the ability to sit down and reach states of utter, complete, undistracted flow. You need to understand that most students today are incapable of sitting down and studying for more than 45 minutes at a time, which means that if you're that one student who's able to master that skill, in other words, you can sit down and do undistracted flow without anyone pulling your attention away for more than 45 minutes, you become a machine. Essentially what you want to do is you want to slowly train your brain to overcome what I like to call attention atrophy, which is essentially when your attention can no longer focus on one thing because it's not trained to focus on one thing. In other words, your attention is atrophying. The same way that if you don't train a muscle and then you try to do the exact same weight in the gym, your muscle atrophies. It's weak. It's not as strong as it was before. So number 1, identify all the distractions that are around you. What I suggest you do is get a piece of paper, and then every single time you get distracted, write that down and then eliminate it from your vicinity. Number 2, create what I like to call bubble silence, right? If nobody can reach you, if they can't find you, if they can't distract you, they cannot pull you out of a state of flow. So there were many times throughout high school, and I made a video specifically on this about studying my car, where I would go to my car and I would study. Or I would go to the library at the back of everything and I'd study there because I knew my mom would not walk to the library and call me. Or sometimes I'd find this obscure seminar room at the bottom of my school and then I'd just study there. The point is, if there's a place where you can study where people can't come in and pull you out of that state of flow at your house or at school or in the library or with your online presence, right? Just turn that away, just turn that off. That is going to allow you to really reach those states of flow and get significant amount of work done. And then number 4 habit was on delegation. One of the biggest hacks that most students don't realize is that they are not that good at everything, all right? In fact, they're not that good at anything. Most high school students, just because you're in high school, just because you're 16, 17, 18 years old, you're not that good at a lot of different disciplines. So once I started to realize this, that, hey, I'm designing this website or I'm doing this extracurricular, right? Outside of the IB diploma, I'm doing this extracurricular. Just because I'm 16, I'm probably not that good at it. So instead of me trying to do it, instead of me trying to spend all this time, I'd rather either pay someone or work with a friend or do something that I can possibly do to delegate that away. And then as soon as I started doing that, as soon as I started delegating away my extracurriculars that I just wasn't that good at, such as building my website or doing design work or even video editing, I delegated those away, and they gave me this swath of time that I could then allocate towards my study, that I can then allocate towards the one thing that I knew I would become the best in the world at. Which leads me on to the point number 5 for habits that I learned, and that is to take meaningful breaks. I found that IB students live in this world where they're always working 100% of the time or they're taking a break 100% of the time, right? That's not the best combination. Instead of taking 5 days off and then working 5 days nonstop, I'd rather take 45 minutes of work and then 5 to 10 minutes of break and then 45 minutes of work and then 5 to 10 minutes of break, and then have 3 to 4 hours in the evening to really enjoy time with my friends and family. So essentially what I did is that every single Sunday I went skiing with my friends and family at the local ski resort in Whistler. So what I suggest is either block out a certain day in your week where you're gonna spend maybe the entire day just having fun and playing, or you can do certain periods during the day, such as an evening or an afternoon where you just spend having some fun with your friends, and then schedule it into your calendar and stay consistent with it. That's number 1. Number 2 is I strongly suggest you set up 15-minute breaks, all right? Meaning that every 45 to an hour and a half of states of flow, you have 15 minutes of just break time, all right? And the way that I did this is that I would typically go with a walk with my dog around the block in the forest, looking at the mountains near the ocean, which is just where I live. So I'd walk around there, enjoy nature with my dog, take him out, and then come back and then reach another state of productive flow. So the pictures you see right now of my dog in the mountains, this was taken during one of the busiest periods of the entire IB Diploma and university admission cycle, which was actually about 3 years ago from the time of filming this video in October, which is when I had my chemistry IA and my math IA due. In fact, I think this picture actually was taken the Friday that these 2 assignments were due. So the point I'm trying to make is that you still have the time to go out for breaks, to have some sort of routine time off, or else eventually it's going to chip away at your ability to focus and you won't have that horsepower you need, right? The horsepower of your attention, you won't have that horsepower anymore to really make progress and get things done. And then number 6 habit that I developed was I spent at least 8 hours to 8 hours and a half sleeping every single night. There was not a single night in my entire IB journey where I pulled an all-nighter. Not one. In fact, there were very few instances, I can only think of a couple, maybe less than 10, that I spent less than 8 hours sleeping, all right? I would basically never go below 7 hours. Maybe there was a few times where I slept 7 to 7.5 or 7.5 to 8. Point is, I almost always got 8 to 8.5 hours of sleep consistently every single day. And just for some context, I would go to bed at around 10 and then wake up at around 6 to 6:30, sometimes even 7. The bus would leave at around 7:15, 7:20. So that gave me enough time to just get something quick to eat and then head out. And then that leads me to the next habit, number 7, which is that as soon as I got onto the bus, I did my pre-study routine that I talked about, and then I got to doing as many past paper questions as humanly possible. I cannot tell you how many times this angers me, where a student comes up to me and they're like, damn, I tried so hard, I spent so much time studying, I worked so hard, I pulled all-nighters, but I didn't get the result I wanted. It's because you were doing the wrong things, right? Most students spend all their time on passively reviewing the notes, right? Reviewing these textbooks, looking through flashcards and the rest of it. That is not the best way to study. The best way to study is to do active recall, to do as much active recall as humanly possible, all right? Your end goal is to do as many past paper questions as you humanly can, right? Just become a factory, do a machine, do as many as possible. I have the saying where that studying doesn't begin until the minute you start to do a past paper question. And I thoroughly believe that that's the case. It doesn't matter all the time you spent trying to understand the concept beforehand, right? All of that is irrelevant compared to the amount of time you need to spend really mastering those past paper questions. So shorten that as much as possible. Of course, you don't want to just go into past paper questions without studying before. You need some context, you need some fuel, but you want to jump into the past paper questions just as fast as possible after that, and then start doing them as much as possible, right? You want to become a machine with these past paper questions, all right? And most people dramatically underestimate the amount of past paper questions that is required to get a level 7, okay? In my own life, right? I would spend not 5, not 10, not 50, but 500 past paper questions points per about 4 hours. That was my goal, 3 to 4 hours every single day, right? So it's not 5 to 10 past paper questions, not I'll do a little bit and then we'll see. It's do as many as humanly possible and do your best to reach 500 points. Now, if I ask you to reach 500 points, you need to understand that the method by which you go about doing that is different than the conventional way that you may be studying. In fact, the way that I approach it is that I always ask myself, why can I not solve this problem? What is stopping me from getting that perfect score? And when you do that, you orient your brain to look for the reason why you may be stumbling, right? What is that aha moment that you need to learn that overcomes the stumbling block that prevents you from getting that perfect score? And then the goal is every single time you do a past paper question to identify that as fast as possible. You can ignore doing everything else and only focus in on that. And then eventually you'll become so damn good at just identifying what is stopping you that you shoot through these as fast as possible because you know exactly what is the obstacle, what do I need to overcome, and you do the past paper questions with that in mind. And then habit number 8 is that you want to practice some type of mindfulness or meditation routine. Essentially what this means is that when you're speaking with people or that when you're watching this YouTube video right now, right? Bravo, you want to be completely present in the moment. You don't want to be thinking about some work that you got to do. You don't want to be thinking about what's for dinner or any of the type of stuff. You want to be completely present. That's called practicing mindfulness, when you're completely present, focusing in on all the information that you're taking in around you. So next time you go and have dinner with your family, or next time you go on the bus ride and you're looking outside, practice the ability to be completely present, because that will train, right? We talk about training that muscle. That will train your ability to really just focus in on one thing, right? Remove that attention atrophy. So in summary, get something that you're going to start implementing into your own life right now. If you're on your computer or you're on your phone, open up your calendar and schedule in one of these habits that you'll start doing, right? Maybe one of those habits is that you're going to gamify school with your stopwatch, or maybe you're going to reach states of flow, or maybe you're going to take more consistent breaks or meditate or delegate. Whatever you want to do, just take action on one right now. I don't want you to fall down the YouTube rabbit hole and then you wake up in an hour or so and you realize you spent all this time when you otherwise could just be taking action. The theme of this channel is results, and results only come not when you know information, but when you do the things that you know you need to do, right? When you take action. So go ahead, take that action. If you have any questions at all, please apply down below for the Grizzly community. All right. I no longer respond to email. I no longer respond to Instagram, none of this type of stuff. I only respond to those who are inside of the Grizzly community. All right. So you can actually join that by submitting your application down below, and then you'll be added to the Discord community. You'll get exclusive access to Ivy League students, a bunch of resources. We gamify the entire high school curriculum, right? There are tons of prizes to be won, other students to interact with, other students to work with. And if you have any questions at all, you can let me know on Discord, on that platform, and I'm more than happy to help. All right. Thanks so much for watching this video. And until next time, stay grizzly, everybody. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.